There you go. Is that better? All right. We're good. And this
All
is...
right.
What is this, JJ? I forgot. It's been a long day.
This is Nerd Rant. Yeah.
And we got a guest today.
Let's
We
go.
We got our faithful, loyal watcher, listener person thing.
You could have easily went with biggest fan. But you went with faithful, loyal watcher listener. So many titles would have worked better.
But that wouldn't fit our podcast, would it?
It really wouldn't.
You are right about that.
Honestly, it's about due time we've had him on.
I know.
He's been listening to like every episode, just listening to all these different guests we brought on, and he's like, "My turn."
Where's mine?
Not even that. I legitimately, like the day before you texted me, I was like, it's been a while since they've had a guest on. I should text them and ask when they're gonna have another guest, but not me.
But not you. Are you scared?
A little bit, but you know, it's fine.
I'd be scared of us too.
All
Don't worry.
right. We should probably we didn't ever introduce ourselves. I'm Dr. Zombie, also known as Seth. You're JJ, also known as Junior Wolf.
Thanks for
Probably
doing
should
it for
mention
me.
that.
You just kind of like took it away from
You're
me.
welcome.
It's fine.
You're
and who is our guest?
insignificant Bug.
Who is our guest?
Bob. You're Bob tonight.
Sounds
You
good.
don't have a choice.
I'm Bob, and you can find me at Gametimewithtim on Twitch. Self plug.
Why'd you name a Game Time with Tim if you're Bob?
That's weird. Anyway,
Very
if you
odd
wanna
choice.
follow us, follow at Nerd Rant Podcast at Twitter and Instagram. And make sure if you're listening to Spotify, hit that bell. We notify when we have an episode.
Want to run that again?
Make sure you hit that bell. We have another episode public.
Yeah.
thing.
Good job. Good
I
job.
have so much fun listening to this.
Okay, I had over an hour interview earlier today. My brain is fried.
Damn. Fair enough.
I've been up since 5. Was it 5? No, it was like 4:45 or so because
It was 89 degrees today, so it was very warm.
That's illegal.
It's despicable.
Anyway, that's not what we're talking about today. We're almost 3 minutes in, and we gotta discuss
We
the topic
do. We
of
really
today.
do.
It's kind of a small one. No one really talks about this kind of debate at all. Timothy, do you want to discuss it? Do you want to give the viewers the topic of the day?
Listeners.
Sure. So today or tonight, whenever you're listening to this, we will be talking about the comparison and/or battle between Apple and the all-superior Android.
Thank you. Oh my word.
Disagree, but we'll get into that throughout the
Definitely.
episode. JJ, did you watch that
I
video?
did watch the video and like 2 more by him.
Okay, cool. I watch
Yeah.
them a lot for more than just phones, but yes, we're not necessarily just going to be discussing which is better. We're just also going to talk about phones, what makes a good phone, whether it be you guys like Android more, what makes you like Android more, what makes me like Apple more, all that kind of stuff. Not necessarily what's better, but what makes a good phone. Because one thing that we like to do, like in our console wars, how can we make it better?
Yeah.
Right, so I don't want to, because either way, I think we can all agree having competitors makes each other better and makes you drive forward. Timothy's over here disagreeing.
Usually, not always.
99% of the time.
89% of the time.
Okay, that's still a really high percentage though.
Yeah.
That's not a debate, that is facts. That is how math works. 89% is a high number.
That is correct.
I'm gonna be a math teacher.
Oh gosh.
JJ's
I feel
already
bad for your
struggling.
future class.
Why? I'm gonna be the cool teacher.
Don't you see his hair?
Oh yeah, they're gonna
learn numbers through
love
Creative
that.
2.0. No, honestly though, imagine doing like computer programming through.
For anyone who hasn't actually seen Seth, he has sort of blue hair.
I'm gonna re-dye it to green, maybe.
Honestly, that'd be more on brand for you.
Start of the school year.
It's turquoise,
That's
and
green.
then teal.
You,
It's gonna be like a
you
proper
slowly
green.
just changed from green to blue.
Yes.
Yeah.
And now it's gonna go. Well,
Back
it was
to green.
turquoise, like a blue-green, just solid blue, and I'm gonna.
I
switch
think
to green.
I think
But
green
again,
is
that's
more
not
on
the point of
brand.
the episode. Yeah.
Anyways, yeah, that's what we're talking about today, not Seth's hair.
Timothy, why are you here? You're distracting us.
You invited me, and I thought I was Bob.
This is great. Okay, so let's start with the obvious, right? Obviously, we already stated me and Timothy are both Android, and Seth is Apple.
I'm a Pixel. I'm kidding, Apple.
Even the Pixels use Android to some extent.
It's a joke.
Your face is
I
a
feel
joke.
like Pixel has kind of fallen off. I haven't heard. It's still definitely a major phone, but I haven't heard much major news about it compared to some of these other Android phones.
They're not advancing
They're
as
obviously
quickly.
iPhone. No. Like,
I have no idea what you're talking about. The Pixel 8 has already been announced.
yeah, but I'm saying like major news. Like they haven't done anything crazy.
You mean
Compared to,
like
a flip
Samsung's
phone.
camera scandals?
Scandals?
Yes.
Probably.
Would you care to explain that? Because I'm
Or
not sure I'm aware
maybe,
of that.
Ooh. So, with Samsung's newest phone, all of their commercials are like, "Ooh, look! Using our camera, you can zoom in stupid far
I
on
know.
the moon."
I saw like a 500 times zoom or some crap on the new phone.
Guess
the Android
what?
phones.
Guess what?
Scam.
100% an overlay. That's a pre-taken picture that they took with a DSLR and a telescope, and they're just kind of putting it on the phone screen. But like they're actually putting it on the phone screen on the phone, not just overlaying in post-production, so that it actually looks real.
Apple doesn't do that.
Yes, they do.
Not that bad. They're not full on faking. Here's a fake 500 zoom.
500 zoom? No, but they have had just as many issues in their advertising.
Yeah, I will say Apple's advertising tends to not be trustworthy a lot of the time.
Everyone's scammed. You think?
I do
100%.
think.
I don't know.
It's riddled with logical fallacies, straight through.
How so?
So, a couple months ago, I saw an ad on YouTube for talking about Apple's new M2 silicon chip. I was like, splash of whatever Apple colors and such. And I was like, open your files. Cut to image of a desktop. Cut back to text in a flash. Something else. Apple new M2 whatever chip. And I was like, for anyone who actually knows how a computer works, that is completely false. The speed of your CPU has little to no effect on how fast your files open. It is entirely dependent on your hard drive. And shocker, Apple doesn't make their own hard drives. Still.
I don't know about that one,
They-
because
they
I know
make-
they do make most of their stuff, but
They make most of their stuff, but 99 times out of 100, any device you buy that has any form of storage will be some other Western Digital, Seagate, what's Kingston? Is that another one? That's the other one.
I don't know how much
Like,
JJ knows about this stuff.
Almost all storage chips, regardless of device, are made by not the company making the overall device. So,
Sure.
but that's not phones, is it?
That is straight technology right there.
This is why we figured this would be a good episode for Timothy to join.
This is true, because neither of us quite know what he just said.
No! JJ can attest. I just put my head right over my head.
It's all right, though, because I'm sure there's
Sure?
somebody out there who knows what he said and now respects our podcast for it.
I just don't know if they're listening to our podcast, but that's not the
This
point.
is true.
'Cause I'm pretty sure the people that do know is Timothy.
Yep.
You know it.
Anyways.
But with that, I don't doubt that Apple. What do you know? Do you think Apple's gonna continue that, or do you think there's a chance that they will start? Because I know the big thing that Apple wants to do is completely make it all in-house. I don't know exactly off the top of my head on what they currently do and what they currently don't make. I'm pretty sure their screens are third-party still, but most of like the A14,
Yep.
A14, which is also a big thing because they're doing it for 2 years in a row, which in the video he pointed out that's like a pretty good part. Like you're standing at a pretty good point if you can keep the same because it is a lot harder. It's going to get to a point where they have to take a break and wait for other technology to evolve for them to make it better. But I know that Apple's big thing is they want to make in-house. Like Apple, that is one thing that also makes it expensive because they make it all.
That makes it cheaper because they don't have to outsource to buy parts. It should make it cheaper, but it's not going to because it's Apple.
Apple does want money. I'm not going to discredit that.
For those listening, the video we're referencing is Mr. Who's the Boss's video comparing the Asus ROG 7 to the iPhone 14.
Which, by the way,
was it a base 14?
I think it was. It was the base iPhone 14.
I think that's a really interesting comparison because a ROG phone is quite the choice for comparing an Android to an Apple. Like, I'm not saying it's
Well,
it's
he's
an
done
unfair
Android
comparison.
to Apple like 100 times at this point. If you look at his shorts, he does so many different, like, drop tests, this, that. He's done plenty of comparisons. But because of the type of phone it is, because it wasn't just, obviously in the video, he did discuss, like, camera quality, and I do want to get into that. Like I said, I want to discuss what makes a good phone, and camera quality is one thing, because, like, something like a 500 times zoom, I think is redundant for a phone.
And entirely falsified.
But even if it was real, I just don't see a practical use of needing to see someone's license plate across, I don't know, 2 football fields.
Yeah.
Like, that's just not practical. If I want to do astrophotography, I can get an extra lens or something to do it with.
If you're, like, specifically with cameras, real quick, because I know we'll get to this later, but if you actually care about photography, you'll get an actual camera.
That's right. Yeah. Like, it's nice to take some selfies and stuff, and high-quality selfies, and some basic videos with your kids or something.
Or, like,
but if you really care and you want to take a nice photo of the moon, you do not need that's just so much
You would
extra.
never take that with a phone camera.
Yeah. But with that ROG comparison, it was showing a lot of the performance of gaming and stuff, which I do think it was kind of unfair. Not the cooling, but the fact that, like, he used that game, which he stated, and I don't know how true it is, but I don't doubt it, that it was optimized for Apple. Because I do think that's one thing that Apple has, is that a lot of things are optimized for it.
He did not mention any game that was... He didn't mention it being...
He meant gaming is optimized for blue. He didn't specifically, but he said it most likely was because the game was optimized for Apple.
The one benchmark test that he ran, yes. Games, no.
Yeah, he said games.
Did not.
He said that games usually are more optimized for the Apple OS. He didn't specifically state that game was. He just said when it comes to optimization, it is easier for people to optimize things for the Apple OS than it is for Android.
He didn't specifically say Balloon Tower Defense 6, but he said that was one very high possibility of it doing better in that test.
And that's mostly because Android's OS is Linux. So it's very free form and people can change it.
He did not say it was optimized for the Apple OS. He said it was running better because it was more CPU dependent regardless, and because the iPhone 14...
He said both. He said the CPU could have been helping, but he did talk about, you can look it up.
I must have missed that then.
Because I remember that's the only thing I thought was kind of unfair, that he chose a game that he said most likely was the fact that it was able to run better on the Apple OS. Because I feel like it should have been a more fair comparison if it wasn't optimized for either one. But I guess that kind of made it fair because the ROG did have this huge fan on the back. Which, how do you feel about that?
It was
for a practical, for like just in the box.
Well, I think
like
if you're
really cool
buying
accessory.
a gaming phone, it makes sense to come with something like that, right? Like, I think
it was cool.
A lot of phones.
JJ, stop having a stroke. That's my job.
A lot of phones do get really hot. Like, I don't know how many of your phones did this, but
especially in my summer, it's been getting so hot.
Yeah,
lately.
no, my phones have always like had that one spot where it's like if you touch it, it is not going to feel nice on your fingers. So having a fan like that to keep it cool is going to be very practical, especially if you're going to be doing like heavy load gaming and stuff.
I think what's really cool though is the fact that they were able to turn it into more than just a fan. That what all? Do you remember what all it had? I know it had a speaker. I think like an aux port or something.
It was a subwoofer. It was
the
fan. It had extra RGB because
Headphone jack.
gaming.
Yeah.
Really, those were the main things. Because
But, but he said that every year, every time they release it, they want to add a new feature to that. So it'd be cool to see what else that has.
Yeah.
And I do think with something like that, that kind of adds to that brand. That the ROG comes with this device. Adds to that brand.
Yeah.
But with that, like, it was in the box. It was included with the price of the phone. And so
that is true.
When you then,
so I guess
when
you
you
think
then
about that,
go
like
to
the price of the phone.
when you then go to compare, in this case, the ROG 7 to the iPhone 14 base, mind you, the ROG is going to win every time because that's like a $200 cooler.
Yeah.
So the phone itself costs less than the box price because it includes that cooler in the box. So,
Yeah.
That's fair. Like I said, I won't doubt, and I don't think we have to debate that Apple is expensive.
Oh yeah, Apple overcharges.
I'm not going to debate that.
At the current rate of price increase annually for the new generation of iPhone, they're going to be hitting $6,000 in the year 2030.
That's only like 7 years away.
$6,000 for a cell phone that is no different than the previous generation.
I do think it is different more though. I'm not saying I think it should be more different.
It is not different
does
enough to
improve.
warrant an annual upgrade.
Yeah, I think most of the stuff probably should just be like an OS update.
Yeah.
It shouldn't
It's
be a
like-
full, here's a brand new phone.
It's like with the Overwatch 2 rebranding. It's like, no, it's the same game. You just
I'd say more Call of Duty. Like Call of Duty is not changed enough to have a full, like I do not think the games are better or different enough to add to
It's
say
just-
it's a whole new game for $70 every single year.
it's just a big upgrade.
Yeah.
So, but
So
that's not why we're here. Is it?
no. But yeah. What else? Do you want to talk about the cameras a bit?
I mean, I feel like we've already said a good
So,
amount
I
about the
think-
cameras.
Yeah, but the camera quality and stuff, and especially video quality, because I want to hear Timothy's thoughts on especially the Apple AI when it comes to stuff like
It's
that.
terrible. It's trash.
Is it though?
It is. So there's three main things to consider when using a camera on a phone. Do you want good raw a good raw picture, unedited, unfiltered, none of it? Do you want a good raw picture? Do you want a good raw video? Or do you want just a good, well-rounded, after all of the normal post-processing that's going to happen has happened in terms of your picture and video quality? If you want a good raw picture that you can take into like Photoshop, Adobe Illustrator, whatever, you'd want to choose a Samsung because that's where the megapixels actually matter. A larger megapixel camera just means there is more light hitting the sensor that is then being recorded. However, Samsung's post-processing is all right. It does what it needs to do, but it's not great. It's not fantastic. There's nothing noteworthy or it's not a selling feature.
Yeah.
If you want a good raw video, think Instagram Live, Snapchat Live,
Yeah.
whatever, that's where you'd choose Apple because their cameras are tuned for video, raw video, not filtered, processed, whatever. Just the raw MP4 or whatever because they use proprietary file formats. That file is going to have a higher natural quality than either a Samsung or Pixel, which I guess I should clarify for the listeners. We're going to be discussing primarily Samsung, Apple, and the Google Pixels because those are the ones most commonly found in our area. There's also Huawei, OneNote,
Yeah.
the Nothing
I
phone,
very
and
highly
others.
doubt that JJ knows most of these. Because I do watch Mr. Who's Your Boss a good bit. Timothy, it sounds like you know stuff. So I do know some of these other phones, like the Huawei. I've heard a lot.
But they're
stuff.
not. Yeah, they're
But
just
they're not
not
mainstream
common.
enough.
They're not commonly
Here, at
found
least.
here.
Yeah,
They're much more
around our
popular in other
because I do
markets,
think-
typically foreign markets.
Yeah, I was about to say, especially Huawei is a lot more Asian markets,
Yeah.
right? Because when you go to areas like that, there's so much censorship and stuff that it's just easier to have their home phone for their home Twitter and Facebook and YouTube than trying to incorporate an iPhone with all that.
Yeah. But then back to the cameras.
Cameras.
Apple, good for raw video.
Yeah.
Processed video, it's all right. It does what it needs to do. Nothing fancy. Nothing to write home about. With the Google Pixel, because every company is good at one, maybe two things, and that's what they were founded for. Google has always been and always will be the king of neural networks, deep learning, machine algorithms, AI.
Hey, we have an AI episode. You should listen.
You should. It's quite good. But
What?
Google, being known for their AI as their main thing, that's why, like, the Google Assistant, that's why it's called that and not, oh, Siri, Bixby, whatever, now called Sam.
What's
They're-
Sam?
Bixby was rebranded into
What's Bixby? I don't even remember Bixby.
Samsung's proprietary one.
I technically have Bixby
They
on here.
rebranded
There's
it to
there's a whole other
Samantha.
button for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of stupid because you can't
Sounds
rebind that.
impractical.
You can't rebind that button to anything
Oh, I can.
else. It's literally Bixby.
No,
only.
I can rebind
Did
it.
you root? Really?
Yeah, there are three
That's news to
functions.
me.
There's a single
does have a
tap, a
pretty
double
new
tap, and a
phone.
hold. And I can bind
Interesting.
one of
What
them
phone
has
is
to
yours
be
again?
Bixby, but I can rebind the others if I choose to.
You do have a newer phone. Which phone do you have?
It's not that new. It's oh gosh, what phone do I have? I always forget
Newish.
what it is.
Compared to your
It's
old
like
one.
2018, 2017. Not new, but it's not old either.
Yeah. I have an iPhone 11 base. What do you have, Timothy? Price?
Google's Pixel 6 Pro.
Okay. And you said the
I
8 just
I
got
do want to
announced?
say
Yes.
you said
the 8's releasing
Google.
next year. The 7's releasing this year.
You said Google's known
Anyway,
for their
sorry.
AI, but I actually am inclined to disagree with that because Microsoft has been the people that has been spearheading all of like the AI advancements in the past like 6 years.
So that I guess I should have clarified. AI is different from machine learning, deep learning, neural networks, and all of that. They are different. The terms do mean different things. AI, artificial intelligence, is primarily language-based learning, which is ChatGPT and all of those others, Notion, whatever. But in terms of just deep, like machine learning in general, Google has always been at the forefront because that's how they got their Google Assistant to be as good as it is. The Google Assistant is able to recognize almost every language, dialect, accent, whatever, that, and no other
I mean, look at the
assist-
abilities on
no
YouTube
other
being able
phone
to
assistant.
easily translate and getting closed captions. That's YouTube is through Google.
Yeah.
And, which has those machine learning aspects.
Which I do also want to notice with the subject of languages. Android supports over 100 languages where iOS only supports 40.
iOS. You say
I-
iOS all the time.
It's iOS. It's iOS.
It is iOS.
I have
Because
always
it's
heard
OS.
it iOS.
It's an operating system.
I don't know who says that.
No one says that.
Is
They're
it GIF?
wrong.
Is it GIF or
Listen
GIF?
to literally every
Is it
tech.
GIF or GIF?
It's GIF. It's
Both.
GIF.
No, it's
Neither.
GIF because it stands for
Language
graphics.
is to what you want.
It's GIF. You giant.
No,
Dingus.
it's GIF because it stands for graphics.
It's GIF. You giant. Oh, what's the word? Gentrification. But that's the adjective. The creator
You would
of the
fit right
GIF
in.
file format intended for it to be called GIF, like the peanut butter, because he was making a play on the slogan of GIF the peanut butter at the time. That slogan being smart mothers choose GIF. And his tagline for the GIF file format was smart programmers choose GIF. And I can see you dying on the camera, and it's hilarious to me
It is hilarious.
because it's pronounced GIF.
Like
because that's
iOS, not iOS. Have you ever heard that in your life?
I have never heard iOS until
Except
now.
him.
Until
Every
now.
time he says that, I'm like, it's iOS, and he tells me no.
Okay, to be fair, most of the people I know are Android users, and they all pronounce it iOS. But if
Why does that matter? He even
I
said
no,
OS.
I know. I'm saying
OS.
you guys who have been more exposed to Apple would probably know better than my Android friends. Why are you waving?
What's your fault for listening to your
Why
friends?
are you waving? What's the waving for?
Which way? This way.
Yeah, good job.
They're waving in the background. Anywho, now that JJ has been educated, again, so you've listened to the last few episodes. I pretty much have to educate him on something every episode, and it's kind of hilarious.
But the getting back to the topic at hand, because that's what we're supposed to be talking about.
Well, this is Nerd Rant, so this is welcome to our schedule.
Yep. The Google Pixel phones in particular that I have found, and this is across the board, not just in my experience, the Google Pixel cameras have the most natural looking picture after all of the post-processing has happened. And the reason for that is because smartphones don't take one picture. They haven't taken one single picture when you press the shutter button for years now.
Yeah.
It takes multiple pictures, depending on which one, upwards of 20, and then it stacks them and compresses them into a single image that you then that is what you view in your photo.
So when you say raw, are you saying like it? So what exactly do you mean by like the raw? Because like I don't do post processing. I just take a picture and there it's in my camera roll. So what do you mean by raw versus post processing?
So by raw, I mean if any camera takes one single frame, one single picture, that image that is then created is the raw file format.
Okay. But then the one that's in my camera roll would be the one with like the 20.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, there's not an easy way for someone to access raw camera data on phones unless they specifically specify that in the camera settings. Because the post-processing does multiple things. It takes multiple images, it stacks them, it compresses them, it makes it look good, and then it shrinks the file size while maintaining image clarity.
Okay.
So, in my experience, again, the Google Pixel phones have a very good-looking post-processed just image or video that you can look at, and it will look very natural. It will have.
I mean, that makes sense.
It will have
Google
much
has
more
the ability and like that data through everything, right? Because Google's on everything, iOS or Android, every single Android
Precisely.
phone, every single computer. I can have it on my Mac, and I can have it on my Chromebook.
CAPTCHAs were only invented in part to detect robots. That was actually a small part of it. The primary feature of CAPTCHAs was to train Google's machine learning algorithms on how to translate a picture into text. That's why the CAPTCHAs were all input these characters that you see for a while, and then it changed to...
So all part of an experiment?
Just mass data collection.
Nice!
To train an algorithm properly, you need to have
Google is the company that's going to make the Terminator.
Highly unlikely.
It sounds like some wild conspiracy,
anything?
but in reality, it makes sense.
No. This is absolutely true.
No, he's saying it's true.
Yeah.
It's just like, it sounds like something that you hear on like one of the conspiracy websites, which JJ listens to.
To train an algorithm, you need to have billions to trillions of samples that it can pull from to learn. How do you get trillions of samples?
By having everybody do a CAPTCHA.
By having everyone on the planet do a CAPTCHA every time they visit a website. You know why it changed? You know why it changed from enter what characters you see to click on images of buses, stop signs, crosswalks, and such? No. Self-driving cars. Those are images that were either taken by people or the car cameras as it was being driven by a human, and you are telling it, hey, this is what a stop sign looks like from a different angle. This is what a bus looks like. This is what a crosswalk looks like. Because, again, you need trillions to, in this case, probably closer to quintillions. That is, what is it? Trillion? Quadrillion? That is 100, not 100,000. That is 1,000,000 times larger than a quadrillion. Trillion. There's 1,000 words.
This is why I'm going to be the math teacher.
Is 1,000,000 times larger than a trillion data samples.
Quintillion?
Yes.
Or quadrillion?
Quin.
Okay.
That is, like, you need so many data samples to pull from in order to train a self-driving car safely. That's why it's being offloaded to people. Because there's no humanly possible way to do it otherwise. You can't create an algorithm to recognize it because you're creating the algorithm to recognize it.
And that's also why they highly recommend, it is not 100% autopilot.
Ever.
Do not take the amount of videos on the internet of people taking naps in a Tesla. That is not what it's for. It's pretty much just there to push the pedal down and make sure you stay in the right lane. It's not meant yet. Do you think it ever will?
No. Well, it probably will,
And, like,
but it
1,000
never should be.
It shouldn't be.
As long
Seth,
as a
did you
human
see the
has
reel I sent you the other
access
day?
to the cabin.
The
What
one
reel?
I sent you, and
About
then you
chat?
said, "Who cares? Get on for it." Did you actually watch that?
Let me double check. I did, but I'm pretty sure I've watched. I think I've seen something about it before.
Well, while you're looking that up, there's a news article recently that went out about Teslas actually, and how every single one should be recalled. Every single one that has ever been manufactured since 2013 needs to be recalled. Because you're able to shift from drive to reverse without pressing on the brake pedal. There is absolutely nothing preventing you from slamming your gearbox. Typically, they don't have gearboxes because it's all electric anyway. From forward to reverse, sending you in the immediate opposite direction, not where you want to go.
And I did not see that specific video, but do you know Corridor Digital?
Yep.
They did a whole video on that. They
Okay.
completely made an anime through AI, transforming their normal to an animistic, like through an AI.
Not
anime
that video.
anime
filter.
style.
Not that video. Different one.
That's the one that I said.
Okay, well then maybe not that one. The car one.
I don't care. Get on for it. And,
The car one.
oh, the car one?
Yeah.
It didn't.
It was a Sony car.
Oh, the Sony car. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, Apple's had a car for I think 4 years now. Google 6, like
Yeah.
entirely in test production, but
I mean, the main reason I brought it up was because it had, what did he say? It was like 3.0 self-driving or something, and he said that means eyes off and hands off, so it can completely self-drive itself.
But it almost can't.
the only reason,
Fully.
the only way that would ever work is if every vehicle on the road had that tech,
Which it doesn't.
which it doesn't.
Because it cannot 100%. It can very highly predict.
Yeah, that's where it comes in. Prediction.
It cannot 100% guarantee. That is like the problem that people do not realize with these current artificial intelligence. Will it get there eventually? Should it? No. Will it? Probably.
The only
But as of right now, it is not there yet.
The only way it'll be 100%
Practically.
safe is if there is no human access to the cab, steering wheel, whatever, which there probably wouldn't even be a steering wheel or pedals in these self-driving cars. But the only way it would be safe is if it has direct communication with every other vehicle.
And with that, then that comes up with the idea of crossplay almost, that not every single car is going to work with other cars.
But that's the thing, is they will be mandated to. Or, shocker, public transportation.
No.
Okay, we got a break
That's
here,
all it is
so
now. It's just
Yeah, we'll be back. What do we want to talk about when we come back?
very good
Let's
question.
try to quickly in the next like 3 minutes. What else do we want to talk about?
Fair.
So talk about cameras a good bit and AI, and that's what makes Google good.
it's your podcast.
UI.
Well, what do you
UI.
think is important with phones?
Depends on the use case.
All right, cool.
Let's go with UI when we come back. There you go. Okay, it's recording. Okay, UI. Yes, should be good. Maybe.
Maybe.
Probably.
Yeah.
We'll probably have to like re-record the last like 30 minutes.
Oh yeah, totally. Just do
could
both.
do
All
that.
do all three voices all by myself.
Yeah.
You totally got it.
As long
Easy.
as you consent to sounding like a woman.
He does.
All right. So
Anyway,
UI.
UI. This is interesting
Why are you looking at me?
because clearly you have a lot to say.
Okay,
your
okay.
podcast.
I can start us off soon as I brought up the topic.
All right,
I hate
let's go.
Apple's UI. It is
I hate Android.
it is hot garbage because it's barely customizable. Like, yes, they have
Appreciate it,
some
brother.
things that you can change, and what you can change, there's a lot of variety to it, but you can't change everything, and that is
You can't even change all that much, though. Like
They
what you
are
can-
customizing a lot more. It is only going to increase. More apps
And
are
guess who they're
gonna-
learning that from?
Everyone else.
Exactly.
Yes.
It's
Because
not.
everyone grows.
they're not-
through other people.
They're not coming up
And
with
other
anything new. Like,
Yes.
Shocker. Apple hates change.
whoa, crazy.
Shocker.
I
Wow.
don't know.
It's almost like we're on the iPhone 27 Ultra.
Yeah.
14.
And it still doesn't have USB-C because, wow, the Thunderbolt port is not surprisingly, extremely terrible.
Well, for that, I'm pretty. What Mr. Who's Your Boss has said multiple times. They've been working a lot on wireless technology.
Wireless ain't great, Chief.
No.
Wireless
But that's
isn't.
what they've been putting their time and effort in versus lightning.
But nobody
lightning, it's
cares about
USB-C.
that.
That's what they currently use. Like instead of upgrading lightning, they've been working on wireless.
But nobody cares
Wow.
about wireless, so it doesn't matter.
One, wireless is terrible. Two, wireless isn't, as my dad loves to say. There's no such thing as true wireless. Anything. There is always a wire somewhere. It's only a matter of how far away and how hidden can you make it.
That's fair.
Anyways, that's no longer about UI.
Debatable.
You're right.
We are ranting.
UI.
Anyways,
That Coca-Cola phone had a really cool UI for charging.
that's true.
Have you seen that?
I haven't.
I'll show you that.
Yeah.
That's not relevant.
But
It's just funny.
Android phones have always had so much customizability. Like if I wanted to right now, I could download an app that completely changes all of my lock screen, all of my home screen. I can change my widgets. I can change my app icons, like literally everything about my phone I can change if obviously somebody has created something to do that. But Apple specifically
What do you
restricts
mean?
it.
I have a Tanjiro message app.
Cool.
Ooh.
I'm pretty sure that's exactly
But
what you
Apple
just said.
specifically restricts it so that everything is still looking like it's an Apple phone. And on
If I
one
will,
hand,
though. Hold up, Timothy. Does this look like an Apple phone?
Yes, it does.
The bright purple
Yes.
N.
Yes.
How? What about that's Apple?
it has the round
is, right,
edges. The entire home screen looks like Apple. The bottom bar looks like Apple.
Well, yeah, it's not affecting the bottom bar. It's affecting this. This is what you just said. You can download an app.
Exactly. And my
to your
point is, I can
app
download one
don't-
app that does all of it.
I wouldn't even have to. Thing is, though, like, you don't even have to download an app. You can just do that native on your
Is it?
phone these days. If I wanted to, I could completely change what OS I'm running. I wouldn't have to run Google's OS on my phone. I could run straight actual Linux. I could run
Now,
Unix
whether or
even.
not that's a
I
good
could
thing
run
is a very
iOS.
different question because
That,
Apple,
yeah. 'cause that
Apple on
doesn't
one
sound-
hand knows what they're doing in terms of branding. Branding is very important in people recognizing your device. So having it always have that signature Apple look will get people to be like, oh, that's an iPhone, and that is good for their branding. It sells them more phones. But from an user side experience, it's not going to be nearly as fun to use nor as free to use as an Android phone would be.
It's called user interface, not branding interface.
This is
I
true.
don't mind that though. Like, I think I have plenty of customization for what I need.
And for you, that might be the case, but for the rest of the world, we'd like to be able to actually.
There's actually
we'd like
quite
to
a
be-
lot of people that
We'd
don't
like to be able to
necessarily need
own our
that.
device,
There's
please
a
and
lot of
thank
people
you.
that
This is
don't
very
care
true.
about
I would
that
like
are
to
gonna
be able
younger
to make my
generations.
device my own, not some corporations.
I can though, plenty. There's a lot that I can
Okay,
do and
uninstall
add
the
a lot of
OS.
Customization. But why was that even? How is that even practical
You
at
can't.
this point?
You can't.
You can't. But why would I want to? Why would
In
I
case you would
necessarily
want to use a
need
different OS. In case you made your own OS
Why
and
would
wanted
that-
to test
Why
run
would I
it.
need to do that as a practical person?
Not
Yes,
not
you
not
can
prac
do
not
that.
practical person. For there are quite a few people, and I know quite a few of them, who have done just that. They have installed a custom OS on their phone because they need the features not included in a out of the box OS.
But what average person needs that?
Average person, not necessarily.
That's what I mean. Like, yes, that's a cool skill, but that doesn't
But-
feel like that needs to be something that should just be built into every single phone. That's the other thing I wanted to
it's-
talk about.
that's-
But then,
Like,
but then
every-
what?
the thing
What
is,
is the
it's
point
not-
of enhancing? What's the point in coming out with new phones if we don't technically need half the features on the iPhone 14 or heck even the Android or Google Pixel phones? We don't need those features, but they're adding them because they are practical for people to use. They're fun for people to use, and some of those other OSs out there have those already.
So, a very good example of this is there are a lot of people who enjoy a minimalistic style, right? They
Yeah.
don't want clutter. They don't want like craziness. They just want plain, simple, functional. They could do that with any Android phone, which I guess we should have clarified at the start. Android at this point is just a catch-all for not iPhone
That's the other thing.
There's-
I have
there's
with
no lo-
Android.
there's no
There is
longer-
no Android
anymore.
anymore.
Yeah,
Samsung,
Samsung, Google,
so would you
Huawei.
say Pixel is becoming its own, or
Pixel-
Pixel
so-
still be Android?
Again,
'Cause in my mind,
Android
it
is
mostly just
catch-all.
Android, iPhone. That's it.
Yes, because that's what at the beginning, 10 years ago, when proper smartphones,
Yeah.
were starting to become a thing. It was you had Apple, and you had Razer, and Motorola and BlackBerry, and they were all running the Android OS. It was the same OS. It was just different shells, different branding, different extra features, like Samsung's Bixby. As much or as little use as you get out of it, JJ.
Yeah.
But as of like 6 years ago, Android OS hasn't been a thing. It's just that's what it was at the very start, and so Android is just catch all, which is why I specified Apple, Samsung, and Google, because they are all each separate things.
Okay.
The only thing similar between the Pixel phones and the Samsung phones are that they're not iPhone.
Yeah.
So,
Which
But-
is a good thing.
yes, competition breeds
Yeah.
innovation,
There.
except in Apple's case.
There has been innovation though.
Where?
They have increased and done stuff.
They're 4 years behind technology-wise
They are.
in everything except the A14 chip.
In every single product in here, it's 4 years behind.
They're comparing their flagship phone, their newest model, to the same year of any other phone manufacturer. They're about 4 years behind, tech-wise, internally. The only improvement that they've truly made is the A14 chip. Everything else has been steps backwards.
I don't know. I don't know enough to say yes or no. But I've not heard that from people that do go in depth, that do tech reviews inside of it. And they haven't said that. And they use Android too.
MKB... What? MK... BD?
The MK7 from Fortnite?
No,
Oh, I know who you're talking about. Marcus. Yeah.
yeah, Marcus.
Marcus.
He himself has said that Apple is years behind tech-wise. And he's one of the biggest tech reviewers.
I don't watch all that much tech.
Shame on you.
I watch gaming.
For shame.
Still no more than him.
Shame.
At least I call it iOS.
Yeah, it is true.
Sigh. I'm just
Yep.
calling it freaking Apple OS.
It's not.
That is also an acceptable term.
Yeah,
That is more acceptable than iOS.
yeah, definitely.
I'll take Apple OS over iOS.
UI is entirely dependent on your use case. If you want or need minimalism, like say you're working construction, for example, and your hands get filthy messy and all the time because that's the nature of your job. You can't have all these really small icons. Get out of here, you. You can't have all these really small icons because your phone's not going to register you hitting that one. So you need bigger icons, which I can do here. I can make this a 3x3 grid on my homepage. Can you do that?
No, but you can increase the tile size. Not that big, but you can change the tile size and text size.
If I need it
So you can
even
do it,
bigger
just
than
not
that?
as well. You can do it, just not as good.
But it has it there.
Like Apple. They have tech, just not as good.
Yeah. Like, I will give Apple two things. I'll give Apple credit for two things because this is what they've always done and this is what they're always known for. Their iPads are the best tablet on the market, hands down, no argument. You cannot beat an iPad when it comes to a tablet.
I don't hear debates on tablets. I hear debates on phones.
The iPad is the best tablet ever created, ever, and they are improving the iPad because that's what they started with. Aside from the iPod and then the first iPhones, like their iPads were the first tablet-style devices to hit the market, and they've kept with it and they've kept improving. And it's good.
Because I watch some art people on YouTube, and they almost all of them use an iPad.
Yes, because it is that good.
Especially with like the Apple Pen and stuff, like it is very well for digital artwork.
For most people, for the highest end, they're going to use products dedicated to actual.
Yeah, but that's that's a whole other level.
That is more niche, and it, again, depends on the use case. The other thing that Apple has is security. Because they lock everything down and prevent you from doing a whole lot, they can guarantee security of data.
Yeah.
That Android, all other manufacturers cannot do. Other than that, they really don't have anything other than, ooh, look, there's an Apple on the thing.
I mean, I do feel like, I don't know much, but for me, one thing I like about it is the fact that I feel like it's a lot easier for me for that cross, like obviously I don't have a MacBook, but I feel like it's easier to connect like my phone to my computer with iCloud versus.
So that was, again, only really true a couple of years ago when Apple was offering a full suite of their own devices, because other than, you know, a MacBook or whatever they were calling it, iMac, MacBooks, whatever, you had Windows, which is still one of the largest operating systems outside of, you know, Linux, Unix. And Windows were not making phones.
Right.
They did for a stretch, but other than that, there was no same phone and computer manufacturer. And so Apple was able to propagate that ecosystem, that synchronicity that just worked, and it was fantastic. And now that,
but yeah, I guess with being able to make your own OS and stuff.
You can make your own OS, you can get your own OS. There's a single app called that Microsoft produces that you can put on any phone, including iPhone, and it will have that same pairing between your phone and your computer.
Mm-hmm. I mean, even built in, my laptop and phone both have an app called Phone Link, which is just like Microsoft and Android's like pairing, and I can easily take any files or stuff from my phone, put it on my computer, and vice versa. I can respond to text messages, take calls, everything from my computer. So,
and even if I didn't want to install the app, Bluetooth is so good now. You don't even have to download, you don't even have to get the Your Phone app. You just pair your phone and you're done. So, like, while yes, that was a very solid thing that Apple had going, it's now commonplace.
Also, high school and like all that depression kind of made me like 5 years behind, in case you can't tell. I very much went through a hard tech period in my life where I watched a lot. That is not now.
Yeah.
So I am right in everything I think when I was watching it.
Yeah.
Which is not
just,
now.
Just a little.
So here's another
like
thing I wanna
Apple,
know,
you're about 4 years behind.
No, I'm 1 in the 7th.
Uh-huh.
I'm not going to say time period. Might be a millennia. So here's another thing that I want to know. Because I feel like in school, right?
Yep.
My high school had iPads and stuff. And one thing that I know a lot about, that I know because I just don't know Android because I don't care, accessibility. iPhones, right? I see like people that are blind and stuff on YouTube. And there's features on iPhone that make it very accessible for stuff like that.
Android has them as well. It like literally that there's two reasons for that. One, Apple does want to, you know, make money, and so they want to sell their devices to the most people possible. And so by making them more accessible, you can be able to sell your phone to more people.
But like, how are they?
I have not really used the accessibility features on either iPhone or Android, again,
Okay.
referring to all of them, because I don't need to. I am fortunate enough that I do not have a disability of any form which would hinder my usage of
I didn't know if
anything.
you've like seen videos, because I've seen videos
I've-
of iPhones using the
Right here,
accessibility.
there's
I've
an
not
entire
seen-
accessibility like category in the settings of my phone:
Yeah,
hearing
it's a
enhancements,
full- I mean,
visibility
I have-
enhancements,
I have that.
screen
Yeah,
readers,
it's like-
there's a
interaction,
whole kind of thing.
dexterity.
I
like,
know they have that, but I'm asking like how good, and I didn't know because
If-
I've only
so-
seen people use iPhones.
Going back to like the machine learning argument, anything that is using Google's tech is superior because they have trained it on a larger data set. Google is so a really cool thing that I can do with my phone. This is the thumbnail for the app. I can press and hold there, and I can Google search. I can copy the text, any of it, just from the I don't know what you want to call that, recent apps menu.
I say app switcher. That's what Apple calls it.
The app switcher, the recent apps menu, whatever. Like, there's so much more machine learning that Google has tuned and created and programmed and trained and all of that, that if it is based off Google's systems,
Yeah.
it is naturally going to be better. Now, that's not the case for everyone. I don't think I'm not sure actually. I can't say this with confidence that Samsung uses their own machine learning algorithms for that kind of thing. They might use Google because like you can
That probably would make the most
Chrome-
sense. 'Cause why
Google
wouldn't
is
you?
the most common search engine, period. And Google pays heavy royalties for Safari to open to Chrome by default. Like that's not just like that's what it does because that's what it is. That Google pays heavy royalties to Apple just to have Chrome be the default search engine in Safari.
So I just realized it's already 56.
hey,
Might need to do a part 2.
Might need to. Do you want to
I
come back
mean-
next week?
I think I can swing next week.
yeah, I mean, I'm here for it.
Let's do part 2.
Yes.
Yeah,
First
alright.
part 2.
No, we did 3 parts of
Marvel.
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 I was gonna say
true.
Mario. That's not it.
Yeah, but
Yeah, Mario.
Technically, because Marvel's 3 parts, it technically was just 1 episode per part of Marvel. It
but
wasn't
it
technically
is
3
a
parts.
series that is parts.
That is true. You're right.
I mean, in that
right.
case, Fortnite would blow all of them out of the water.
Yeah, but it's not it is a series, but it's not a
I feel like that's
multi-parter.
different.
Like there's
Yeah.
a difference between a series and a trilogy
Yeah.
type thing.
It's a saga.
Video.
So next time we'll discuss. I'm gonna try to force Timothy. JJ hasn't really talked. Timothy has talked. I'm gonna try to force Timothy to try to point out what makes a good phone.
That's going to be extremely hard to do because again, as I've said before multiple times now,
Not in
use
Apple,
case.
but like in general, in a public, like everyday, anybody. So not in a use case, like anybody can use this, and it is accessible for everyone. What makes a good camera? What makes a good UI? Not because I don't need to change my OS as a teacher.
There's
Because yes, I
That
do
is- that
think
is-
Android.
that is
with
definitely a
all this-
minority of needing to change the UI as
And
a
stuff like that.
or rather the OS as a whole, but like changing your icons, your background, whatever. The biggest thing, and this is really the kicker between Apple and all of other phone manufacturers, is Apple has a very shallow learning curve to get into, but it caps there. There is not, you can't do anything really deep in terms of using your iPhone to get the results you're looking for necessarily. Android has a much sharper, steeper learning curve, but after you've mastered it, everything becomes so much more open and accessible.
Like
to
what?
you.
Like-
Everything.
Like what am I doing that I can't do on my phone that I would actually care about?
3-day battery life.
I mean, I charge it every night because I'm on it and have max brightness because my eyes suck.
My phone will last at 73% as what I'm at now. I will be able to last until Sunday night on just that with normal daily usage.
But so here's let's end it on this because Mr. Who's Your Boss talked about that. How do you feel about what do you think on how Apple is able to make your OLED a lot dimmer? Do you know what I'm talking about when I talked about that?
Android can do that too. It's not exclusive. It's like that is a commonplace feature. Apple does it a little bit better than
Better. I'm kidding.
Apple does it a little bit better in that they are already able to reduce the refresh rate down to 1 frame per second. But even with that, their battery still isn't fantastic. It's good. It's very good. It's enough to last the normal person a normal day. But it's not like the Energizer phone that can last 2.5 months on a single charge.
But then with phones like that, how often does the rest of the phone tank because of how much they're spending on the phone, the battery?
Not all that much. Like, you don't have all of the extreme features like 120 hertz.
I don't even
LED
care about
screen.
120 hertz.
Yeah. So human eyes can only see about 40.
Actually, it said about that in that when he used the 160 hertz, it hurt his eyes because it just gets to a point where it's too much.
It is not natural.
It's not practical.
Yeah, there are
It's
reasons.
spending way too much. But we'll talk about this more next time. JJ, say goodbye. He said goodbye. Peace out.
Goodbye to go to Dubai.
Goodbye.